Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swirsky Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swirsky Sports Talk Chicago. On this episode, we've got the Bears losing a dance-off in the city of brotherly love, while the Hawks continue their winning ways. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Season is in full swing right now. I just saw the team play on Saturday night against the Chicago Wolves. And so you can check them out too in beautiful BMO Harris Bank Center in Rockford, Illinois. So head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swirsky Sports sent you. All right, Alex.
Yeah, so I'm pretty confident I know what's on your mind. I'm pretty confident you know what's on my mind. The big elephant in the room happens to be a big bear that smells of rotting sushi, apparently, and got back late because its plane broke down after a beatdown in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. That game, I mean, I think everybody and their mother knew that it wasn't going to be a pretty game.
Oh, no. I mean, you got to give credit to Philadelphia. They're right now the best team in football. Carson Wentz might be the next all-time generational talent upcoming. And I mean, for me, it's not so much that they lost. It's just kind of the simple mistakes they made and more bad coaching and Mitchell Trubisky really not looking well. I mean, it's one thing to get beaten by Philadelphia, which they did. There were some things that Philadelphia did that's hard to stop for anyone. Like I said, I'll give them credit. But there's a few pinpoints that I think that you and I could both bring up about the Bears that just simply did not suffice, no matter what they were or who they were playing.
Yeah, basically this 31-3 loss just had shades of Mark Trestman era all over it.
Especially the first half.
Yeah. And that was the frustrating part for me is not that they lost. It's just the way that they lost. I mean, sum it up in a little bit of stats here. Trubisky, 17 of 33, barely over 50% passing, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions. Jordan Howard had 7 carries for 6 yards. Tariq Cohen had 2 carries for negative 11 yards. Benning Cunningham had 1 carry for negative 1 yards. Dontrell Inman, Trey McBride, and Kendall Wright are your top 3 receivers, and they were targeted a total of 20 times, amounting to 8 receptions for less than 100 yards. And
that's horrific.
And your offensive line allowed 2 sacks and 5 hurries, which is generous. I mean, it was being generous on their behalf. Really, it felt like a lot more pressure.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
it was a lot of quick passes.
Right.
Yeah, all around. On every single phase of the game, the Bears played bad. Bad.
Especially those penalties. What I thought was a real shame were the penalties on the defense, because early in the game, the defense made some very nice plays. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, they did. I mean, definitely being outmanned because the defense is already shorthanded. You're down
Big time.
your top 2 edge rushers. So it's much more difficult to get to a quarterback who's behind a fairly decent or pretty good offensive line and gets rid of the ball quickly but also is they have so many targets, the Philadelphia Eagles do,
Right.
that the Bears just don't have enough guys to consistently cover them. And it doesn't help any when Adrian Amos who's your primary backup, now starter because of injury, safety, he goes out too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's absolutely incredible how week after week more guys pile on the injury list, and it's like, well, it's one of those things where if you're the general manager or coach, no matter how good or bad they are at their jobs, that's just one thing that's out of your control. And, unfortunately, the Bears still don't have the depth that a lot of good teams do. I mean, they have more depth than they have in the past, but when you're having all these injuries pile up, that was one of the reasons we all didn't expect even a good game. I mean, I think that if this Bears team was absolutely fully healthy, do I think they beat the Eagles? Probably chances say no, but at least they make it a better game. And even you knew early on when the Bears were making some nice defensive plays, but they weren't going anywhere on offense, you just darn well knew that the Eagles were really going to adjust and that they were just going to toy with the Bears the rest of the way. And the next thing you knew, it was 24-0 at the end of the half. And that's when I stopped watching.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears in the first half had more yards in penalties than they did in total offense.
And that, I think, is the biggest stat of the game, arguably. Sure, you could go with Trubisky. That's also, a big argument to be made. But that right there, you had no first downs in the first half. And by first downs, I mean earned first downs. And you had more penalty yards than gain yards. I mean, that sums up right there the inability to even come close to winning that game.
Yeah, and I know this isn't a stat, but for the purposes of this show, this is a stat that I'm keeping track of right now. Is John Fox sent out the punt team on third down and then had to call a timeout because they only had 10 men on the field when they tried to get a play in. That's a stat I'm keeping, is number of times in a game a coach has to or sends in the punt team in third down and then realizes it's not fourth down and then has to send the team out and then calls a timeout to get enough players on the field. And John Fox is leading the league in that stat.
Yeah, that's not a stat you want to lead in. And speaking of punting, there were several times early on when the Bears had 4th and 1, 4th and 2. And this is just my opinion, but where you're at in the season, what the circumstances are, why still play so safely? Why not just go the hell for it? You have a young QB, you have a bunch of young running backs and young tight end. Why not just try and go for it? That's what I would like to know. Why the hell not at this point?
I am all with you in most games. In this game, it just would have led to a bigger rout because the Bears couldn't run for 1 yard against this team. And even if Trubisky threw a nice pass, I'm not confident somebody's catching it. I'm thinking they might drop that.
Yeah, I mean, that could be the case for any down, but I get what you mean. My thinking of it is I would rather see them try and at least be a bit more gutsy no matter what. I mean, at this point, obviously if it was a big game, you play it safer, but I don't know. That's my whole thing on it. And, you made a really good point, though, with the running, because there were some times with the play calling on third down, it was early in the game. They tried to swing it out to Howard, and it was a loss of 5 yards. It was just terrible play call on third down. And the whole time I'm thinking, they better not try to pound and ground this whole way, because if you look, the Eagles defense, which is very underrated, is number 1 in run defense. So it almost feels like once again, they're not changing their game plan up, and that frustrates the hell out of me.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles went into this game, their whole defensive scheme was to make the Bears one-dimensional and make the Bears beat them with medium to long passes. They took away the run. They absolutely took it away, and that was their thing. And they were taking away swing passes and short passes. dump off type things. They were taking that away. They were taking away all the short game, and they were going to make them beat them. And the Bears just don't have. They don't have the offensive line to block. They've got a rookie quarterback. They've got a terrible game plan. They've got a bad offensive play caller, and they don't have the receivers to be able to physically do this. So
right, and that's what good coaching does.
Yeah, and that's really what happened is, watching Trubisky play is there was a wildly inconsistent that whole game. There was some plays you were like, dang, that's the guy that's going to lead us into the future. But then you watch other plays and be like, huh, we're gonna have to draft another quarterback.
Woof.
Yeah, and you know what is it's really hard to put it all on him. You can put a lot of it on him, but when you have an offensive line that is not protecting you,
no one open downfield.
There's no one open downfield, and you got to rush passes. Is some of those incomplete passes, they were throwing the ball away, whether wildly throwing it out of bounds or just one hopping it to the receiver just so it doesn't get intercepted. So some of those were that. There was some drops, and there was some where and this is the one that does worry me, is when the pressure was on, he reverted to bad mechanics. And
right.
And that's where he throws behind receivers over the heads of receivers rather than being accurate. But when he steps into it, he's got some zip on it, and he's got some, throws it right into the spot.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's one of those growing pains that I think we're going to have to deal with for some time now. And this is kind of why right now I'm preaching the whole don't throw him to the wolves just yet. Criticize the problems he has because there's clearly some problems, but when he gets a line that can block, when he gets coaching that can coach him right, when he gets targets that are effective downfield, I think that's when the real judgment has to come in. This right now is a time where we can identify clear weaknesses on both him and the team and the coaching. And this is where everything has to be addressed in this offseason. So, this is the first trial run we're getting with him, and it's frustrating as hell to see some of this, but, we just have to hope that it gets better under a lot of circumstances for him and the team, because I mean, look, as a whole, this offense can't do much, even though they have some really good pieces on it.
Yeah. And the thing is about having a rookie quarterback is look at Jared Goff last year. Is people were calling him a bust and say he couldn't play in this league before the guy even had a chance to play.
Right.
Because he didn't start out of the gate. And you bring in a new coach, bring in some weapons, and now look at that guy throw.
Exactly.
He's really good. Carson Wentz he was pretty good last year, but he had, there was some rookie mistakes in there. He even touchdown to interception ratio. You put in a better offensive line, and you've got him a head coach that is an offensive mind that you watch him just be on the same page as his head coach. I don't know if you saw this, but when that laminate thing where it's got the plays for their game plan, when they're looking at that from the formations, is head coach is looking at it. Carson Wentz is standing on the sideline, flipping it over with him, pointing to plays, and they're devising a game plan going forward together. They're on the same page. And suddenly now you got a guy who goes from even 50-50 touchdowns, interceptions to 28 interception or touchdowns to 5 interception and 104 quarterback rating.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's you gotta have all the things to make it work. Is you need an offensive minded play caller, whether that's the head coach or just a really good coordinator. You need somebody that's going to develop a game plan that's going to put your quarterback in a position to be as successful as possible. And the Bears don't do that.
Especially a game plan that is fit in today's style of play and isn't play to not lose, because clearly that hasn't worked out so well. So, there's a lot of factors in there. And, one thing that I think that doesn't get talked about enough is I think there's legit reason to be concerned about that O-line for the future. I think there really is. I don't know what your opinion is, but I think there's a reason to be kind of worried about it, considering a few circumstances.
Oh, absolutely. There's 5 major holes in that 5-person offensive line. Bobby Massey can't play.
Right.
Charles Leno is not a left tackle. You've got Josh Sitton is on the wrong side of his career.
Right.
He's still
getting
a good
old.
player, but he's got to be healthy. Kyle Long has got all kinds of health problems that are multi-season spanning.
And especially the surgery he had, that's hard to come back from.
It was a botched surgery that he's trying to come back from, and he didn't have surgery on his shoulder. So he's still dealing with the same ankle that he dealt with last season, through the offseason, through this season, shoulder, last season, offseason, this season, plus now his fingers and his hand. He has got major injuries, and he's not playing well. And the best offensive lineman you have is Cody Whitehair, and you got him out of position. He's a guard, maybe a tackle. He's either a guard or a right tackle, and you got him at center. And so, yeah, you need a major, major overhaul.
Yeah, I mean, it looks okay on paper if you take away, everything we just stated, but the reality is there's a lot of problems, and Pace has got his work cut out for him, man. I mean, it's not just receivers on this offense. You really need to revamp this line too. So I think people have to remember that as well, that receivers are not the only thing that is going to be addressed offensively next year.
Well, and part of it too is look at a lot of the pressure that was on, especially the second half of this game. And a lot of this was, you'll hear sportscasters talk about, well, Philadelphia played a sloppy game and they still won by 28. Look at all the penalties they had. A lot of those penalties were in the second half of guys jumping off sides because they were just pinning their ears back and attacking because they wanted to pad their stats. They wanted that sack. They wanted the strip forced fumble. They wanted a tackle for a loss. They wanted to make a big play. And you know what? Those penalties didn't matter. They didn't matter because they were up by so much and the Bears couldn't do anything. And that's the thing, is part of it is, as an offense, if you can't do anything, the defense is going to dictate everything. And they start taking whatever you can do away. Is if you're the Bears, you need to be able to dictate to the defense. And even if you don't have the best offense, is if you are talented enough otherwise and you have quality play calling, is you keep the defense off balance. If you can't protect just strictly with your front five, you've got to do it with play calling. Keep guys off balance. Is don't be predictable in your play calling. If they know what you're going to run, then odds are they're gonna win that battle. If they don't know what you're going to do, and you're constantly keeping them guessing, is they're going to start guessing wrong, and that's when you make big plays. And when you start making big plays and you put points on the board, is you suddenly start getting less pass rush because guys are trying to stop other stuff. It's not just we just need better offensive linemen. Is you need a system to put those linemen in.
Right.
Is, if you have a good system like the Patriots, they're able to just plug guys in an offensive line and they do a good enough job.
Yeah, I mean, are there really any perennial Pro Bowlers on that offensive line? I don't think so. They make it work.
They make it work. And even when they're having struggling on offensive line and there's pressure on Brady, is they adjust that game plan and they do whatever it is to score the points, and they still score points. And that's what the Bears don't have. They haven't had a quality offensive mind ever.
No, they really haven't. And I mean, it's weird to think that the 2015 offense was better than this. Think about that.
Yeah. And you know what's really sad is, I don't know if you've encountered this, but on on multiple platforms, I've heard people, now that Mark Trestman just won the basically the Super Bowl of Canadian football again, and I'm hearing people saying that they wish they had Mark Trestman again.
I mean, it's something I never thought I'd hear in my entire life.
Yeah,
But
and
I'm hearing
basically,
it.
you don't want Mark Trestman again. You may say, well, he sucked less than Fox, which I don't think, but can't you set your sights a little higher? Can't you just say, like, man, I would like Mike Tomlin. I would like
Right.
Sean Payton. I would like, somebody that can coach, not somebody that can Canadian coach.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I even with everything that's gone on with Fox, I'd never say, boy, I'd rather have Mark Trestman. No. I mean, that's an absolute no. As bad as we've seen John Fox, especially recently, I don't think you can match just the awfulness that was Mark Trestman. And yes, he had more wins as a Bear, but keep in mind that in 2013, that team had a lot of weapons on it. It had Marshall and Jeffrey to throw to, and the defense was horrible and everything, and that was horrible, but they were still a good enough team to make things work. And as everyone knows about Mark Trestman, he's the king of doing great the first time, and then once he's figured out, he doesn't know how to adjust. And that's exactly what we saw with Mark Trestman. So, record or not, there's no way I'd say I'd want Mark Trestman back, even over Fox. I can't say that. That was the second half of 2014 was the biggest joke in Bears franchise history. It really was.
And then you've got jokers like Chris Sims that are saying, well, the Bears should promote Dow Loggins to be head coach because you don't want him lose an offensive mind like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with that.
Yeah, I'm willing to let Dow Loggins go.
Me too.
I'm willing to let him go and try my hand at a magic 8-ball to be your offensive coordinator.
And look, I like Vic Fangio enough, but if they were just to clean house of the coaches, I'd support that, wouldn't you?
I'm not married. Up until a couple weeks ago, I would have really rather them bring in somebody that would keep Fangio. But at this point, I'm just like, meh, clean house.
Yeah, sometimes that's just the best thing to do in this kind of situation.
And you know what? It's crazy because I don't know if you heard John Fox talking today, but like they're asking him if he's on the hot seat, and he doesn't even say the right things. He's just clumsy. He's clumsy in his coaching. He's clumsy in the way he talks to the media. This game has passed him by.
Yeah, and
maybe he's a good head coach in 1983.
Sure,
but we're in 2017.
Yeah, he's just not with the times. He's too old school. Like you said, the way he carries himself with the press is very irritating, and I'm sure he's a nice enough guy in real life, but you just cannot have this around your franchise for another minute. And I know I sound like a broken record every week, but I would let go of him now. I know a lot of people ask what it would do. I think it would send a lot more messages and have a bit more sense of urgency, at least have the impression of it, than if they didn't do it right now. Heck, like I said in a tweet, if you made the freaking quarterbacks coach, the head coach, the rest of the way, at least it sends a message that they're taking action now. And I mean, at least you're taking a big risk with nothing to lose. It's the fact that they have nothing to lose and they continue to not try anything different. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with you for a different reason, but Brad Biggs was on the radio and somebody asked him about firing Fox now. And he's like, well, what does that do for you? And my thinking is why have a lame duck? Number one, why bother having a lame duck head coach? He's going to do only the things that are going to best interest John Fox because he knows he's fired, and he's going to try to set himself up for another job.
Right.
He's not coaching to make the Bears better for the future.
Right.
Number one. So just getting rid of jettisoning him, getting rid of him is going to be beneficial to your team because he's not an anchor to them anymore.
Yeah. Two, there's no reason to have him around.
Yeah. Two is your whole job now is cultivating this quarterback. That's your whole job.
Right.
So you either, promote somebody else to be the interim head coach and just take the handcuffs off of Dow Loggins and say, develop him, because you're probably gone too, but you are still young enough where you need to make money. John Fox is old and has a lot of money. Dow Loggins is not old and doesn't have a lot of money. So he needs to, get a job. So earn it and let people know what you can do without constraints. Or three is you promote Vic Fangio as the interim head coach because the guys wanted to be a head coach, and you get a half a season or 5 games of a trial run. Basically, is can the guy perform better? Can he do the things that John Fox couldn't? And you get a sense of what he can do for 5 games. Whereas if when the season's over and you fire Fox, you say, all right, well, we'll interview you, Vic Fangio, but you don't know what he's going to be like as a head coach.
Exactly.
5 games of experience. I can't think of any reason why the Bears would be harmed by letting Fox go now.
They wouldn't. There's no harm to it. In fact, I think it's more harm than staying status quo. I think
so too. I honestly, and I'm not in the business of, having guys lose their jobs.
Right.
But if this is a performance-based business, and if you're not performing, we need to get somebody in there that's going to. And if you're Ryan Pace, I know your seat isn't quite hot yet, but the longer you sit with John Fox, it's got to be like a seat warmer starting to heat up,
And I bet he feels that, but this is where the whole thing gets gray for me. Does he really want him gone, or is this a situation where McCaskey is kind of saying, well, don't fire him. That's not what we do. I mean, this is where I question who's really making this decision right now with Fox. Is it solely Pace? Is Pace saying we're going to keep him the rest of the way and ride it out? Or does Pace kind of want to do what we've been talking about and not getting the blessing or the approval from McCaskey? That's what confuses me. In this horrible situation that this team is in, we don't know what management's doing because they don't say anything.
No, and I've heard the rumblings that the reason that the Bears didn't cut Connor Barth sooner was because Ryan Pace said no.
Yeah, I heard that too.
That is really damning of Ryan Pace.
Yeah.
And if you're Ryan Pace, you need to make sure that you are doing the things you need to do, because this is a league with a long memory. And if you come in here and botch this, people are not going to forget.
I'm sorry. Long memory. Funny.
Got a long
memory. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, and as many good things as I think Ryan Pace is capable of, he's also botched a lot of stuff.
And that's exactly what they were saying on the radio too.
he can't feel that confident because, drafting Leonard Floyd and Tariq Cohen and, Nick Kwiatkowski and guys that have played better than you expected. You've also whiffed on, and I can't really blame you on Kevin White because you can't predict broken bones. They are soft tissue injuries or things like that. Yeah,
Injuries are a tough one.
That was just broken bones are a tough one because they just break.
Right.
And
it's football.
So
injuries happen all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to measure how brittle his bones are from a physical.
Right.
But the damning thing on him is look at how bad his free agent signings have been for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
His Demps,
I forgot all about
Played bad before he got hurt. Who was the guy, the safety they signed from the Giants? The Antrell Roll.
Yeah.
He was terrible. You look at Trevathan's played well when he's played.
Mike Glennon,
terrible. Marcus Wheaton, terrible. Like you've just got some bad free agent
luckily he
signings.
scored with Akeem Hicks. That might be his best move so far.
I mean, Akeem Hicks was great, and when he's not busy taking steroids, is Freeman was a great pickup.
It
too.
was, and that's all on Freeman.
Yeah, but that was a great signing, under the radar signing.
It was.
And if you could have him off steroids and Trevathan healthy, that's a really good linebacker.
It is.
Pair. And but even Christian Jones has been playing pretty well, and Nick Kwiatkowski's been playing pretty well. But Pernell
McPhee's toast. Let's face it.
And that's another one. But that was a guy who was injured that you decided to sign because he was young,
right?
So you got to kind of say, well, he has injury history. But
I remember when he
Willie
started,
Young,
he wasn't bad.
No, but he had injuries in
Baltimore.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying.
So it's just like such a crapshoot with him. And you can't have that. You got to have way more wins than losses, and everybody's going to have whiffs in the NFL. Yeah. That's the way
sports,
it works. But you've got to have way more hits than whiffs, and Ryan Pace doesn't have that. And you're coming into an off season that's going to be a big off season because you've got a lot of gaps to fill, and you've got a lot of guys coming free agent. Benny Cunningham, free agent. Mitch Unrein, free agent. Kendall Wright, Bellamy, Inman, Compton, Soul, Christian Jones, Sam Acho, Prince Amukamara, Kyle Fuller, Sherrick McManus. They're all free agents. Like you got to figure out which of those guys you want to bring back, which are willing to come back, and how you're going to plug some of those holes because, not all those are very good names, but Inman and Wright are your two best wide receivers. Amukamara and Fuller are your best cornerbacks.
Yeah, I think Prince Amukamara right now is one that Pace really has to re-sign at this point. But yeah, what was I thinking of? There was another player I wanted to bring up that he brought in. Josh Sitton. That's kind of a tweener, wouldn't you think? Because he's a good player, but he's had injury problems and he's getting older. How would you rate that one? I'm just curious.
That one, if you just look at it purely from picking him up, was good, but they paid him a lot of money, and he's been injured a lot. But you were in a position where you needed him. Like they had a absolutely gaping hole in that offensive line before they signed him, and it was the Green Bay Packers were like, "Here you are. We feel sorry for you. Bless you."
Yeah, I mean,
and handed him over.
yeah, pretty much. I knew a lot of Packers fans who were pissed about that too. They're like, "Why did you
And
just?"
it was more of a it wasn't the quality of play, it was the a disgruntled player that wanted a new
Right.
contract.
Yeah.
That was all. It wasn't had nothing to do with his play.
And, you bring up how there's a lot of re-signings to do. I mean, I guess one kind of nice thing we could consider is they have a lot of room to play with when it comes to money. So, just looking at a positive there, I guess.
Well, yeah, and they're definitely gonna cut
Glennon.
Mike
Yeah.
Glennon. That'll save some money, but you got to expect them Pernell McPhee to be
Yeah.
gone. There's gonna be a lot of contracts that are gonna get shed on top of guys that are leaving, but there's a lot of holes to fill. The ideal situation is you can somehow find a number one type wide receiver, because when he comes back healthy, is Cam Meredith then can slide into the slot of a number two receiver, and he would be a damn good number two wide receiver.
Absolutely.
The problem with the Bears is not that they didn't have any talent at wide receiver, is that they're misslotted. And that's the thing that the Eagles had last year, is the Eagles had talent at wide receiver. They were just slotted wrong. So they bring in Alshon, and suddenly they're able to slot wide receivers where they should be. And you have a better mix of guys. If you don't have a number one, is all the number twos in the world don't help you out as much. And especially if you don't have a two, adding threes are not going to do the problem. Is you need a top, a number one wide receiver, and you need, that makes your number two look better if you've got a good number one, and having a good number two makes your number three look better. And that's where the Bears are, is they don't have a one. Cam Meredith is a number two, and then everybody else is a three.
And that's what I preach about
so
Inman. He's not a traditional number one. He's just a number one on this team right now.
Yeah, he wasn't even a 5 on the Chargers. Right. And so for the Bears, if you're able to bring in a real number one, whether through the draft or trade or whatever the case, however you get them, beg, borrow, steal, is suddenly you slide Cam Meredith into the number two spot, and then you've got Inman as a 3. That is the recipe for how you get weapons for your quarterback.
Exactly. And I think that's really important that you said that, is that, it's not just, you get one receiver here, one receiver there. You got to put the right receiver at the right spot. That's a really great point. And I think you summed it up perfectly there. It's going to be something that a lot of people are going to be focusing on in this offseason. Because remember last year, there was all the talk about drafting the quarterback in this class, or, going after one of the elite safeties. But I think in this upcoming draft, what a lot of the media and the fans are going to be focusing on is the wide receiver position. I mean, would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's a position of such desperation, and can really change up how the offense goes. And honestly, I'm looking at the list of Larry Fitzgerald is easily the best wide receiver that's a free agent next year, and he's 4,000 years old. He'll be 35 by the time the next season starts. That's really old. And granted, he's going to hit 1,000 yards again this season, and he is light years better than anything the Bears have. Does he come back for, at 35? And why would he come to the Bears?
Yeah, why would you want to do that? Don't torture yourself. If you want to sign somewhere, you're a future first right away Hall of Famer, and you want a chance to win a ring, you're going to go to a place where you have a legit chance to win a ring, not the Bears.
Yeah, if you're Larry Fitzgerald and you go to like a New England, because they turn over the hill wide receivers into gold, with bad attitudes. But just imagine what they do with a guy who's just a sterling example of a humanitarian, and he is a model workman as far as his NFL career. And you put him with Tom Brady.
You have two of the greatest of all
just-
time on one team. Just think of that.
Yeah. And here's your other wide receiver options. Terrell Pryor, who's so far not playing so well. Alshon Jeffrey, who won't come
No
back
way.
to you. You got Sammy Watkins, who is got a lot of talent, but his career is an underachieving resume for a number 4 overall pick. Jarvis Landry is not a number 1. He's more of a slot receiver. That's who you got.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like one of the top receivers in football is on the board right now. I mean, it's not like Megatron's going to suddenly come back and be available. It's not like Jordy Nelson's going to become available. It's not a terrific class. And the ones that are good, like Larry Fitzgerald, like you said, they ain't coming to the Bears. So, you're going to have to use the drafts to get more targets, really, if you want a really good target. Obviously, you could sign some lower end guys to free agency to cheap deals, obviously. But, I mean, we're talking like number 1 targets here.
Yeah, and that's not out there. I mean, it's just not out there. I mean, do you want to bet the farm on Sammy Watkins? The guy's got lots of talent, but
It's risky.
Is he's going to want to? It's risky because he's underperformed in his career, and he's going to want a lot of money. But he's doing really well in with the Rams right now.
Yeah, and the Rams are really good.
The Rams are really good.
I have a question for you. It's about a Bears player, but it's not on the topic of wide receiver. I just wanted to get this in so I remembered it. We had one of our listeners ask me a fan ask me a question on Twitter going into the show. Before the show, I try to say, hey, you have any Bears questions? So what this person asked me was, do you get the sense that Kyle Fuller doesn't really want to be here and that he would jump to the sign with a team that offers him a contract similar to what the Bears end up offering this season? What do you think of that?
I don't know. I think he would come back. But I think if there's complete turnover and there's uncertainty of who the defensive coordinator is going to be and what his role is going to be, he might be hesitant to do it. That's part of the nice thing about bringing in head coach and keeping Vic Fangio is those guys, even though there's been some contention between them because Vic Fangio just doesn't mess around and he's very forthright and probably said a lot of things that Fuller didn't want to hear. But ultimately he's made Fuller a better cornerback, and the Bears are the team that drafted him. Is that both those things have to have some weight that they carry.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because Kyle Fuller, it feels like the past few games we've seen a bit more of the struggling Kyle Fuller. I mean, you saw him fall down early against the Eagles in that first quarter. You saw him miss a few what should have been interceptions after he was just an absolute monster the first few weeks. I mean, he was firing on all cylinders. I just think Kyle Fuller right now is a very complicated thing to tackle right now, both what we want from him, if we want him, and if he wants us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. I just don't see the Bears getting that much better for next year. Honestly,
I think a lot of it's going to depend on health.
because they need a lot of things. yeah, it just there's a lot of things have to go right.
Yeah.
And it's going to start with do they bring in the right
Yeah,
head
I mean
coach?
that's one of the biggest things is that.
And it I read an interview with Benny Cunningham, and he was talking about playing for the Rams last year, and the Rams were 4-12 last year, so similar spot to where the Bears were, or where the Bears are now. But he was saying that a lot of these guys don't understand that the average NFL career is 3
Yeah.
seasons, and that when you play on a losing team, it's hard to get a new contract. So you've got to keep playing hard and fighting these last 5 games, not only for your team and your teammates, but because for your own livelihood. If you're the same caliber player on a really good team, it's a lot more heavily weighted than if you are the same caliber on a bad team.
Right, exactly. Now, one of the difficult things probably for a number of these players is they've been on this Bears team for a few years now, and they know nothing but losing seasons in Chicago. And that could play in a factor of, going into the future saying, well, we haven't been good. They say we're making strides to be good, but it just ends up being for naught. Do I really want to stay here? I mean, I can't help but wonder what these players think week after week of just losing in frustrating ways, especially for the ones who have been here multiple years. And we've heard stories of boiling over frustration. I don't know if you heard today, but there was a verbal exchange, a really loud one, next to the media room among players at Hallis Hall. I mean, it's just what goes through their minds. I can't imagine it feels any good.
No, it's got to be absolutely frustrating because these are all A-type personalities, hyper aggressive guys, hyper competitive, and losing sucks. And you got 53 of them in a room, and they're all unhappy, they're all angry, and they're all going to lash out, and frustrations boil over. That's what happens. Winning cures a lot of things, and the Bears aren't doing a lot of
And you
that,
know
so
what
there's a
else
lot of
I
ailments.
think is going to get to these players that already has gotten to some of these players in the past? That's going to be the last home games of the season. And by that, I mean, they're going to look around and they're going to see maybe over 10,000 no-shows to these next few games, probably. Now, if Jimmy Garoppolo plays for the 49ers, maybe there'll be a bit more interest and people will come out. But on Christmas Eve, Bears-Browns, I can picture it already. Soldier Field's going to be maybe over a third empty. I mean, that's got to be disheartening as well because you're playing in one of the biggest markets in the United States. You know that the fan base of the Chicago Bears is one of the biggest in all of sports. And not only is your team not playing well, but you're looking around and seeing an empty stadium, a stadium that is so used to selling out every single game and the city getting so pumped for. You just see how your relevance in the city that has embraced you for nearly 100 years is dying down these past few years because you've been so bad. That's got to be disheartening as well, wouldn't you think?
Oh yeah, that's got to be super disheartening. And I was looking because the last game of the season is against the Vikings. I couldn't remember where the first game was, and I was like, I hope that game is not in Chicago because it's a New Year's Eve day game, and I would imagine a ton of Vikings fans would make the trip down because they don't have to work the next day, and you're like, well, you know what is we'll make the 1 hour $150 flight from Minneapolis to Chicago, spend New Year's Eve in Chicago, watch my team destroy the Bears, and to see the last game of the season be in front of mostly your opponent's fans in your home stadium. That's just got to be just a kicker. But luckily,
right, yeah, because the last two games are on the road. The one on Christmas Eve, I believe, is the last home game. Yeah, I mean, to your point, do you remember 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Yeah, it was in 2014. Do you remember the Lions were on the verge of clinching a playoff spot at Soldier Field and Jimmy Clausen was starting? And that place was like maybe 50+% Detroit fans. I don't know if you remember that. So yeah, I mean that's
Oh yeah, I
pretty
remember
much
that.
maybe even at a worse scale that you'd see if that game were in Chicago in the last week. Because I don't think Browns fans are going to be flocking Soldier Field in droves, and maybe you'll get some 49ers fans, especially if there's, you know, Jimmy Garoppolo is playing. But to your point, if it was a division game at the end, oh boy, that would really be bad.
And the thing is, so it's more than likely Jimmy Garoppolo is going to start this game because of the
Right.
injury to Beathard. You gotta think that the 49ers are going to
Well,
win
I
this
mean, I
game.
even said, watch Jimmy Garoppolo just destroy the Bears next week. I mean, you could see it, right? I mean, Brett Hundley destroyed us, for goodness sake.
But yeah, looking at the schedule is the 49ers is going, although they have a terrible defense, you should be able to run against them with Josh sitting out in concussion protocol and Kyle Long being a corpse of himself and wrapped up like a mummy. That's going to be difficult.
Mhm.
And I just don't see. I really anticipate Jimmy Garoppolo throwing all over you. The Bengals is going to be a tough game. They're a better team than you. Lions are going to win. Vikings are going to win. You realistically, best case scenario for the Bears is they finish this season 5-11. Best case scenario.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I think your best chances are against the 49ers and against the Browns, obviously. The Bengals may not be good, but like you said, they're better than the Bears. And is that in Cincinnati?
It is in Cincinnati.
Okay. So, yeah. I mean, unless the Vikings just pull we're going to rest everybody, but even so, it's hard to imagine beating them. I mean, the Vikings are so much better than you in every sense that even their backups could probably beat the Bears right now with all these injuries and the way the coaching is and the way just everything is going. I mean, heck, I would not be totally shocked if the Browns beat us somehow. That's how low I feel about them right now.
Looking at the current NFL draft order as it stands, is the Bears would have the 6th overall pick.
Okay.
The only teams picking ahead of them would be the Colts, the Broncos, the Giants, the 49ers, and the Browns. And the Broncos and the Colts have the same record, but their strength of schedule is easier, so they get the higher draft pick.
Yeah.
So the Bears just suck at even losing right.
Yeah. I mean, you want the Bears to get as good of a pick as possible, but when you're in the moment watching the games, you don't want them to lose. It feels so different for me with the Bulls, where the Bulls, I just say, just lose. Please, I'm begging you, lose as much as you can. With the Bears, I don't know if it's just an emotional thing, but I never root for them to lose in the game. Like, if they have a chance to win the game, I pray to God that they come back and win the game, even if that means messing up a draft order. And then I'll just pull good for the draft pick after the game is over, after they lose. But in the moment, I don't want them to lose. I mean, I would really hate losing to the Browns, even if that helps a draft position. Losing to the Browns would just be the ultimate low point of your franchise right now.
I think part of it is just the importance of every single game in the NFL, whereas MLB, there's 162 games and
Right.
there's 80 some games in hockey, 80 some games in basketball, that even the worst team in baseball winds up with 60 wins.
Right.
So it's one of those things is like, all right, well, wins and losses, your highs, your high of highs from winning is not that high, but your low from losing is not that low because the more games you have. But in the football, it's 8 wins is really important. So you've like if you lose 2 games in a row, that's really bad. You start getting pretty low. Same with college football. College football is 1 loss and something like, well, now I guess we can't be national champions.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
And so it's just the importance of each game is has on the season, and I get that as a Bears fan, you're just like every loss, it's miserable. But the only time it's good is when the season's over and you're like, well, you know what? At least I don't have to watch 3 hours of the draft to see who the Bears pick. I get to watch 15 minutes.
Exactly. And I think the other thing is, since it's just a once a week thing, you play once a week, you have a bad loss, you're sulking over that over a week. It's not like, well, we lost today, we'll just come back tomorrow or tomorrow night or in 2 days or in 3 days. You have to think about that for an entire week.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. And the season's just short. The season's much shorter.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Look at baseball, 6 months of regular season plus postseason plus spring training. Long, long season.
Yeah, and hockey. I love hockey, and I don't complain about it as being long, but it is long. It
is.
If you win the Stanley Cup, you're playing from like October all the way through the end of May, beginning of June.
Yeah, I mean, when the Hawks last won the Stanley Cup, they won like what, on June 9th? I mean, that's a lot of hockey.
Yeah, it's a ton of hockey. And then you know, after you get the celebrations done, blah blah blah, your parade, it's like the middle of June, and so you get the rest of June, then July, August, and then you're back at it in like September.
Yeah, exactly.
It's most of the year.
Yeah, it's very different.
It's like a public school year.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, when you think about it, it pretty much equates to one. Because when I was in high school, the hockey season would start about a month after we got back into school. And then when the Hawks won their first Stanley Cup in 2010, when I was a sophomore in high school, it was like 4, maybe less, maybe just a few weeks after school got out. So yeah, it pretty much does equal a school year.
But I don't know. I'm done talking about the Bears.
Me too.
It is not too much to talk about. The Bulls suck. You know, it is the slow season for baseball until the winter meetings in a couple weeks.
And when Ohtani decides to go somewhere.
Yeah. But we've got a little bit of Blackhawks, not a ton. Since the last episode, they played 2 games. They played the team with the best record in hockey in Tampa Bay Lightning in Tampa Bay. And then they had a 4-1 win against the Panthers. And they're playing tonight against the Ducks.
Currently up 3-0, so hopefully they hold that.
Oh, is it? Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to think that they would be able to do something against the Ducks because the Ducks really have been struggling defensively, and the Blackhawks are starting to really turn it on offensively.
They dominated the first period.
Yeah, and so this is the time when the Blackhawks are really starting to click. Is not including tonight's game, of their last 12 points, they've taken 9 of them. And this is after the previous 10 games, they were 3-6-1.
Yeah, I mean, they're quietly kind of starting to pick things up.
But it was funny, like a week ago or so, I saw a stat, and it was Blackhawks in last place, Bulls in last place, Bears in last place.
I saw that too.
And I was like, I don't like that. And it's funny because you looked at the Blackhawks and you're like, well, they're in the wild card. They would be like the wild card seed, and they're in like last place.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're pulling out of it. They're in a good division.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of talented teams. You have, because I think the Blues, they either have the second most or most points right now in the NHL.
The Blues are playing really well. But Corey Crawford is just absolutely playing lights out. You're starting to get special teams clicking on both ends. The power play is 6 goals in the last 22 opportunities.
It's looking better for sure.
And the penalty kill is only given up 3 goals in the last 20 chances.
That's been something very good this year. It's been the PK. That's been pretty consistently good, I'd say.
Yeah, so you've got some good things going on there, and finally you're starting to see the top forward lines starting to score. You're seeing better passes through the zone, like the better entry passes. You're seeing just all around better offensive play from the Blackhawks.
Yeah, I mean, Saad has scored 2 goals. He scored 1 tonight. He scored another the other night in Florida. You're seeing Tays starting to rack up some assists, and he scored a few goals. You're seeing Kane score again. DeBrincat scored tonight. Sharp finally scored after not scoring since the second game of the season. So they just got to keep this up. And that's one thing that I'm kind of worried about is that they'll hit another lull. They need to keep pace with this good division, and they have a tough few weeks coming up because they got to go to Nashville, home and home against the Stars, and then you got to play the Capitals in Washington where you haven't won in 10 years. And then there was another game in between that. Oh, we got to play the LA Kings. So, it's a tough stretch coming up.
And I hate home and homes with a team that's several states away.
I know.
It's one thing if it's a home and home with
St. Louis,
or Nashville or Detroit. Those are okay. Even Minnesota, but Dallas, that starts to get a little far.
Right.
I know one is Thursday, one's Saturday, and you got 2 days of travel, but still it's sucky. It's sucky when you have to do those.
It is. And like you said, it was a lot easier when they're a lot closer to you, but it's somewhat of a hike. And looking at this stretch overall, there's 12 possible points of the games I listed. I think if they could take 8 of those, I think you're in pretty good shape.
I think you're in really good shape. You're starting to see Jonathan Taves. I mean, we've talked about how, he's played much, much better, but a lot of it was not measurable.
Right.
Not in this, you won't see in the stats, but now you're starting to see it in the stats. Is he just recorded his 3rd 3-point night in a month. That's impressive. And, I always talked about how I hated Roberto Longo, but, I'm starting to like him a lot.
I love him much more on the Panthers. I hated him on the Canucks, but on the Panthers, I actually like the guy.
I like when they're scoring goals on him.
Oh, yeah, that too. That's always fun.
But as you think about this, is the last time the Blackhawks went to Florida and played the Panthers. Do you remember that result of that
7-0 loss. I was watching that in a bar with my friends, and it was horrid.
I was in Rockford seeing the Ice Hogs that night with my wife, my daughter, and some friends, and we got in the car and started it up and turned on the game on the radio, and I was like, "Did you say 7-0?" I'm like, "Man, the Blackhawks stomped them," and I was like, "Wait, they lost 7-0?" I was like, somebody said something wrong. I was in the parking garage and I couldn't get reception. I'm like, they couldn't have lost 7-0 to the Panthers.
Yeah, believe it, they did.
But yeah, so you're starting to see, the Blackhawks really getting fired up as the energy line, the 4th line was good against the Panthers. They opened up the scoring with John Hayden. Going to the net after that Wingles wraparound attempt. So you're just seeing them really click, and part of it is when they're clicking on offense, it makes a lot of the defensive problems go away.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the puck in the offensive zone for a majority of the game, it obviously takes a lot of stress off your goaltender and your defenseman. And, if you look at the box score, the Panthers did get a lot of shots, but a lot of the shots were, not as nearly as quality chances as the Hawks had, because if you look at chances versus shots, there's little difference in the shots, but a lot of differences in the chances. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, and then the loss that the Blackhawks did have is it was an overtime loss to a team at the time had the best record in hockey and was on the road. And you still had, although it's a little bit of a moral victory taking a point in overtime, you had to feel as the Blackhawks that you should have won that
absolutely.
Because you were up
you're up 2-0.
2-0 in the first period.
And you were one good shot away nearly from being 3-0. And then the shorthanded goal and it was 2-1. I mean, if Vasilevsky didn't make a great save right before that happened and it's 3-0, Blackhawks probably go on to win that game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's just sometimes it's a game of inches.
Yeah. And Kane had the breakaway in OT that didn't go in. This was a quote from Coach John Cooper about that. Is of course they're going to get a breakaway, and of course it's got to be 88. You kind of just turn away and hope you hear the crowd cheer. This one didn't look good early for the Lightning. Yeah, I mean, that sums up what happens on a Kane breakaway, and unlike many other times, he didn't score.
And that's the thing is, it's you could have all the talent in the world, and sometimes it's just you gotta have a little puck luck involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's like BABIP in baseball. Sometimes it just doesn't bounce your way.
Yeah, it goes back to the old saying. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Hockey is a very big example of that saying. I think it really is, because the way the puck dives, dips, and squeegees around the area, I mean, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and then if you read reports and about players and a little bit more biography, you'll see that pretty much every player that made the NHL, that's in the NHL, was, all through growing up, was far and away the best player that they ever, anybody ever saw. And they dominated all of their competition. And then they get to the NHL and suddenly they're an enforcer because they can't score.
Right, exactly. That's
pretty much the Bob Probert story. Bob Probert was just an absolutely dominating hockey force. And when he got to the NHL, just couldn't score.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, beat this guy up.
Yeah, go Bob Probert. It was kind of before my time, but I've seen a lot of those classic highlights with the Hawks and Red Wings fights. And yeah, I mean, like you said, I read an article on him, and people were looking at him like the next big scoring star at one point. But, like you said, it didn't translate.
Yeah, and that's just the thing is everybody is a really good hockey player, and you just got to work hard at your craft and have luck. And that's just that. It's kind of the recipe for it.
4-0 now. Yeah.
Nice.
Let's see. Was it? It was Artem Anisimov. Good.
Which has been great because he's been.
Yeah, and you know what I like about him is that he's got that great net front presence, and that's how he scores a lot of his goals, and that's how he scored that one. He drove, he shot, he continued to the net, got the rebound, and shot it in.
I mean, that really is like a big part of their success is having, better passing and net front presence.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I think lacked early on when they weren't scoring goals. We kept asking the question, why is there no net front presence? Where's the pressure on the goalie? All the goalies had were seeing shots that were right at them. They didn't have a lot of challenge in front of them. They weren't screened by a lot of people. And what Artem Anisimov has been doing, he's been showing that good net front presence, and he was the leading scorer for a while. And then I think the Hawks kind of realized, hey, we need more of that, and that translates to good things. Look at Saad's goal the other night, right in front of the net. Tays shot it from the bad angle. Both Panic and Saad were right in front of Luongo, and Saad was able to tap it in. Net front presence, people, it's important.
It's really important. I mean, just think about all the greasy goals that helped Blackhawks get to, the championships that they have.
Absolutely. All angles, all things. And what was the one goal? I think it was the first overtime goal that Duncan Keith scored in the first game of 2015. You remember that in double overtime. You had Pecorine screened by several guys, and just a long shot from Keith traveled all the way. Rene never saw it, and boom, it went in. I mean, that's just one example of many. Or the overtime goal that Kruger scored. It was a long shot from the point, and Kruger was right at the doorstep to put it in. That's the recipe for success. If you don't have any pressure on the goaltender, an NHL goaltender, for the most part, is going to see it and stop it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm just looking at the NHL standings right now, and it's amazing. Is for the hot start the Blackhawks have had at the beginning of the season and the streak that they're on now, they're only 11-8-3 over the whole season.
Yeah, I mean, there was that really rough patch where we were questioning a lot of things and frustrated with a lot of things. And that's kind of why I think it's very important for the Hawks to keep playing well, that they can't really fall back into a slump again, because even though they have been collecting points over the past few weeks, it's that record it's not bad, but it's not great.
No, I mean, if the playoffs were to start right now, the Blackhawks would be on the outside looking in.
That's why they got to keep winning.
I mean, you assume they hold this lead tonight,
Hopefully.
and then they jump into that last spot. But
big game tomorrow night.
They've got a losing home record,
and that's very rare.
They've got a losing home record right now. They're 5-4-1. Oh, sorry, that's a winning. But it's barely. It's 5-4-1. That's not a good.
Okay, I was gonna say really, but yeah, it's still not great. I mean, the Hawks of the United Center have been one of the most dominant teams the past few years.
Yeah, I was following my finger across, and I ended up looking at the team above them, which is Vancouver, who's ahead of them in the standings for the wild card. They're 3-5-3, and I was like, man, the Blackhawks are terrible at home. And they're like, oh wait,
okay,
follow a straight line, but still they're 5-4-1. They're better. They've got a better away record.
Yeah, makes sense, I guess. And it's kind of funny because the Hawks won the first 2 games of the season at home, so that accounts for a lot of those wins.
Yeah, almost half of their home wins. But yeah, I mean, it's these are the fun times. These are the fun times to watch hockey, is when you've got all the lines scoring, you've got you're really offense clicking. The special teams, even if they're not scoring, or they're at least applying pressure and look competent. There's nothing more deflating than when you just can't even get a shot off in a 2-minute
and especially
penalty.
When you don't get a shot off and they get more chances, the team that's shorthanded than you, because we've seen that multiple times early on this year.
Yeah, we have, and it really is infuriating. It's so frustrating.
So hopefully what we're seeing now is more consistent what we see down the road, whether it's the power play, whether it's the defense, whether it's, anything. We hope that's what we see in the future more than what we saw before, because, they're going to need to have some consistency here, because this division is really good. I mean, I think the Minnesota Wild, they always make that big charge mid-season, so you're going to have to deal with them on top of the Predators, on top of St. Louis. So, keep that in mind. And the Stars are nothing to look away from either. It's going to be tough.
Absolutely. It's going to be real tough. But, the good thing is some of those other teams are going to hit a slump as well. It's a fact. and you just got
Right. I mean, St. Louis, as good as they are, they're going to hit a slump at some point. We all know they're going to. And Nashville, as good as they are, they tend to hit some slumps at points in the season. Obviously, every team does, but, they're a really good team. They're still going to hit slumps. And kind of like what you just said and what I've said earlier is that's kind of the time to strike.
Yep, absolutely.
Mhm.
100%. But I don't really know if there's anything much to
No,
talk about
I
else.
mean, what's there to say about the Bulls? They're bad, and they're bad.
They're bad. Yeah, it's. I was watching a little bit of the Heat game the other day, and I was just like, the Heat stink, and they're really taking it to
You
the
know what's
Bulls.
funny? I feel like the Bulls play worse against the Heat now in the regular season than they did when LeBron was there. Because if you remember, the Bulls against LeBron in the regular season, whether it's the Cavs now or the Heat then, the Bulls always beat the Heat more times than not when they played the LeBron Heat. And now the Heat have been beating up on the Bulls really ever since LeBron left. Like last year, I saw them get killed by the Heat, and they got killed by them again. What was it? Yesterday they played them.
Yeah, it's frustrating to watch. But what's really frustrating with the Bulls, and I don't want to really dig into it, but as you watch is every night somebody else plays well, but then you don't get any consistency. It's like, oh man, Valentine played really well tonight, and then the next two games he just he stinks like a dirty foot, and then you like, oh man, I'm seeing flashes from Chris Dunn, and then he goes and links back into the darkness, and then you'll be like, oh, Bobby Portis, this guy can play. And then he goes out there and trips over his feet and looks lost.
Still has a bruise on his knuckle from where he punched Mirotic.
Who practiced
Did
today
he? Oh boy.
with the team.
Oh boy. Would he wear the mask, do you know?
I don't know. I didn't,
because I heard he has to wear a mask.
But again, oh, I'm sure his Bill Lambier mask.
Yeah.
But in the game the other night, I saw Paul Zipser sighting, and he made a shot.
Wait, are you sure you're not talking about last year's Paul Zipser?
No, I was this year. I was like, what? And then I watched another like 5 minutes, and I didn't see him again. So it was just one shot is one opportunity.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's something to marvel at, I guess. I mean, I remember last year when he was doing okay and thought he could be a decent depth piece, but, now not so much. You know what I think is kind of weird is, I don't know if I read this stat right, so maybe I'm wrong, but I thought I read this that the Bulls are a really good 3-point shooting team, but they're the second worst scoring team overall. Did I read that right? Because it doesn't really seem like it makes much sense.
No, it doesn't.
Maybe I read it wrong.
I would just, I'd have to double check that. It don't seem like a good 3-point shooting team, other than a couple of guys.
I mean, overall, their offense is terrible.
But it was. I mean, what really was embarrassing was the other night when they played the Golden State Warriors without Kevin Durant, without Draymond Green, and they still lost by 50
Not only
points.
that, but did you see Jordan Bell?
Started.
And he trolled them.
And looked. Yeah.
I wrote about it, and I thought usually I would be pretty pissed about that kind of thing happening against my team, but the Bulls are such a mess. I just laughed my butt off at it.
Yeah, and it was just crazy watching Steph Curry, just how much better he is than anybody on the Bulls.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of an understatement.
I mean, he had some of those guys on ice skates, on roller skates, and he just, dropping threes like they were nothing. And I was just like, 50. I mean, I get that Golden State is a much better team than we are, but without Draymond Green, without Kevin Durant, still.
Could you
beating us
imagine if
by
they were
50
all in
points.
there?
That's just embarrassing. It would have been a laughing. They would have won by 100.
Probably. I mean, at least 50. Ooh. Plus, over 50, I should say.
So bad. But I guess this is going to do it for this episode of Bill Swirsky Sports Talk Chicago. Thank you guys so much for listening. Tune in same bat time, same bat channel next week for us to talk about the loss to the 49ers.
Yeah, whoop-de-doo.
and how Jimmy Garoppolo is, good. But thank you guys so much for listening. Please subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube. Share with your friends. And thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears! Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.